Hello, everyone. This is AI Ate My Strategy series, and I have Graham Kenny here, and I'm Ganna Pogrebna. And actually, with Graham, we meet regularly and talk about strategy. And we thought, well, it would be fun to actually do it for you guys, so you can listen in on our conversations. Hi, Graham. How are you today?
Oh, good, Ganna. Yeah, thanks very much for organising this. This is fantastic. I'm looking forward to this conversation. As you say, we have quite a lot of chats, and we've written quite a few articles for Harvard Business Review. So
Yes, you all have to understand that Graham has 70 articles.
yes,
70 articles for Harvard that he wrote for Harvard Business Review. Most people have zero. So just to explain to you how hard it is. So yeah, and today we'll be talking about business strategy and AI. So we really enjoy that topic, and we hope that you will enjoy it. And we know that on LinkedIn there are lots of people who are interested in strategy and AI. And to kick off, yeah, we have today's topic is about AI strategy. So lots of businesses are talking about AI strategy. On LinkedIn, we have, I don't know, my feed is filled with, oh, we need AI strategy, we need AI strategy. But you're quite skeptical about it, right, Graham? So you always say that there is no such thing as AI strategy. What do you mean by that?
well, I think the whole question of what strategy is one that's been kicked around for a long time, and I think it does get misused, overused, and misunderstood. So the strategy really, if you boil it down to what it was about originally, you can think of two armies competing on the field, and you could try to work out how you're going to, one army is going to beat the other. Actually, it comes from a Greek word, strategos. So it's been around a long time. But it wasn't until 1965 when this book was published.
Corporate strategy, let me just show folks.
So this is the foundation stone. And Henry Mintzberg has described this as the crescendo for the way in which strategy came together. Now let's think about 1965. That's basically 60 years ago now. And he was talking also about how one organisation or one business competes with another. That's the strategy end. Once you go below that, and we're talking organisations here, once you go below that level, you're really now into plans. So if you talk about AI strategy, what you're going to end up doing is putting AI ahead of what the business strategy is. So that's where you get this problem of AI everywhere, which is what's been discussed on LinkedIn and various articles.
So your perspective is like there is business strategy and not really AI strategy.
Yeah, there's no HR strategy either. There's no IT strategy. There's no operational strategy. There's no marketing strategy. What you have is how are we going to compete as an organisation? For example, this hotel. And then we say, okay, that's how we're going to win in the marketplace. What do we now need to do to make that happen? These are plans.
Right.
The strategy bit's done.
Right.
So I just don't like the use of the word strategy once it gets down to the functional areas.
Yeah. And so I know that you wrote, like, I highlighted like 5 articles that you wrote, like very close on this topic. And guys, they will be the links to these articles will be in the description to this video. And by the way, we really appreciate likes and subscriptions. That's very important these days on YouTube. So please do that, because then we know it's worthwhile, right, to do this whole thing. So when businesses are saying we need AI strategy, what are they getting wrong? What are these kind of, from your perspective, why do they have this thinking? Like, what is wrong with the mindset there?
It's really about how AI is going to facilitate the organisation strategy. So we start with that. And then we work down to, okay, so how do we employ AI to help us to get there? If you think about it the other way, then what happens is AI strategy becomes primary rather than secondary. And that's where there's a problem. And we can see this occurring already in the literature where people are saying, we've got AI everywhere, but it's not delivering what we want, and it's failing. So, problem started the wrong way.
Yeah, but what you're saying, I guess, is also that it's not just AI, right? It's not just now. So previously, like, I don't know, in the 90s, we had all this talk about HR strategy and like every new thing that's coming out. Businesses are thinking about strategies for that, right? Is that historical trend like that?
Yeah,
Or
it's just a fashion.
yeah, it's a
It's a
fashion.
fashion, really, that... and look, strategy sounds better than plan, doesn't it? I mean, I've got a HR strategy instead of saying I've a HR plan. But if you have a HR strategy, just to take that as an example, does that mean that you've gone away as a HR manager with a group of people to work out what we need to do in HR, independent of where the organisation is going? That's the impression I get when I hear those, the inflated terms that HR strategy, AI strategy, and so it goes on.
Yeah, so can we go a little bit deeper for a second
Yeah.
on that? And I know your method is to look at strategic factors,
Yeah.
right? To help organizations design strategies. So what does that look like? Because I think most people, like you said, when you say strategy, they think plan. They don't necessarily think about factors that they need or stakeholders or
Stakeholders is the foundation. And in 1984, which is 20 years after this book, a book was written
I'm gonna show the book again.
by Edward Freeman, and it was the first time in which someone had laid out a stakeholder perspective on strategic management. The book was called Strategic Management. So even though this book here was mentioned,
Here.
it mentions stakeholders, which is quite surprising actually, because a lot of people think it was 84 when stakeholders came into being, but actually it was the time in which it was formalised. And then, then some people got on board and some people didn't. It took me a while for me to capture that concept, which is a bit surprising because in my studies I'd been attracted to systems theory, which is what really stakeholder relationships are about. The relationship of an organisation and its system to its stakeholders. Anyhow, so for example, Michael Porter doesn't use the word stakeholders.
Right.
And that's deliberate, I think. He doesn't like, I'm suggesting he doesn't like the idea of stakeholders. And I think that's a misreading of the stakeholder framework. The stakeholder framework is customers are primary, stakeholders are, shareholders are important, employees are very important, and so on and so forth. But it's all meshed together. It doesn't take the focus away from the need to have competitive advantage in the marketplace. It just says that depends on all these other things.
Right.
And you can't just focus on the marketplace and forget the rest, because without employees backing you up, you've got nothing. Without suppliers supplying on time, you've got nothing. So that idea of a system is extremely important. Now, from stakeholders comes strategic factors, which is a term I coined. And I coined it because it seemed to me that there's something in those relationships on which you're building advantage.
Right.
And in fact, it was my wife and I in Auckland sitting around. I was using another term at the time called critical success factors, and Margaret and I were sitting there. And I don't know who came up with the idea of strategic factors. It could have been Margaret. But anyhow, I said, we've got to have another term. Critical success factors, key result areas and all that. We need another term. And it might have been Margaret said, what about strategic factors? And, that's interesting. And I sort of mulled around this idea. So what are strategic factors? There's those few things you have to get right in order to get competitive advantage.
Right.
And the classic example is a convenience store. You need to have the price, location, hours of operation, store presentation, customer service, those sort of things. There's a sixth one which doesn't come to mind at the moment. Oh no, product range.
Product range, yeah.
And once you understand, they're the things that are going to make me a winner or not, then you have to say, well, where are we positioned on those six things? Then you have to say, well, how do we know our positioning is going, or repositioning will make us competitive? That gets you into discussion with the stakeholders, in this case the customers, to understand what are you looking for from when it comes to service? What are you looking for in terms of product range and so on and so forth? So if you don't get that right, you can end up sort of developing a convenience store which looks marvellous, but it doesn't satisfy
The customer.
here. You can take that to any organisation and any stakeholder group. Employees are also looking for something. Suppliers are looking for something. So that was the framework that I built out over a period of time.
Brilliant. So so what is the simple test? So you're saying, well, AI might be a part of strategy. So what is the simple test that a leader can do to say, okay, yeah, AI belongs to my business strategy? Or do you think this is like universal thing? Everyone should have AI.
Oh, everyone should be going down the AI path.
All right.
There will be a period now. I think we're in the period where people will be talking about pre-AI and post-AI, pre-computer, post-computer, pre-internet, post-internet, and this is a real change in history here. So should organisations pursue AI? Certainly, yeah. I mean, we're seeing organisations doing this. We're researching organisations, writing about organisations that are doing this, and you hear them at conferences, which I go to frequently, just to hear the stories. And yes, but I think, don't spend everything on AI and experiment with it. We were talking to a director the other day that was saying, in the public companies, they're actually experimenting with the tool to see if it works and it doesn't work and how's it going to work, and that's the way to go.
And to your point about stakeholders, does AI also come in from the stakeholder side? Do you think it's a stakeholder as well? Because like everyone currently is consulting their AI assistants on the phone to think about what to do. So do you think it's going to come in that from that side as well?
Well, yes, it is, and you know that better than I do. The idea of the filtering of people's wants and the companies filtering information both ways. You tell me about it.
Okay.
How does that work?
This is actually a point where Graham gets to ask me questions because we agreed that it's not going to be one-sided me asking him questions. So let's go to that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know a bit more about that because we're starting to write an article about it, but you've got immense knowledge. So, I need my glasses here. Questions. I've got a few questions for you.
Brilliant.
From the AI side, why do you think so many organisations feel pressure to create a separate AI strategy?
Well, look, that's a great question. I think that I cannot personally, I don't know about you, I cannot personally explain it with anything other than hype. Because to be honest, some organizations, I think, are not ready to have AI. And very often they don't even have good problems to solve with AI. That is a little bit like when you're saying about strategy, like it's business strategy and AI may or may not come in. So I think that a lot of organizations are going like, AI is the answer, what is the question?
Yeah.
So they're trying to retrofit the questions and they're not really thinking what they're trying to do, right? And personally, like, a lot of times when I meet companies, and I meet a lot of them, they're like, we want AI today. And then you're going down the path of what do you need it for? They're like, we haven't really thought about it, but like everyone has it, so we better engage with it. So I think most of the time companies don't have good problems that they need AI for. So they don't actually understand what it's for, but I think because of all the hype and the competition talking about it and the media talking about it, they think that they need it. So that's one problem, the kind of defining the good business problems that really require AI rather than retrofitting. I think the second problem is the capacity and capability to actually sustain what it means. I'm not going to get into like the cost of it because I think we're going to have a separate conversation on cost. But just like when we go into the companies and ask, do you do generative? We want to do generative AI. The company says, okay, do you actually do AI now? Forget about generative, just machine learning. They say no. okay, do you guys do data analytics? No. Do you do stats or any type of calculations? And then, oh yeah, there is Jeff, and he's got a spreadsheet. And then you are having a conversation. Okay, maybe you're a little bit early thinking about it. So yeah, like I personally, I don't know what your take on this is, but my take is like most of it is just hype. Yeah.
Well, I think, there is hype, and that gets people interested. Why do they then go to the step of doing it? And competitors copy each other.
Right.
And that's been known for a long time. There's an interesting book by Lou Gerstner who says elephants can't dance. And it was when he was CEO of IBM. And he said, I'm going to let you into a little secret. Everyone, copies each other basically, and most strategic plans look the same as the next one. And he was really keen on execution. He said, what distinguishes the winners from the losers is not what's in the plan, it's what the organisations execute. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful book. And I think what we see now is people in banking, for example, the Commonwealth Bank has gone all in on AI, and then everyone else has said, oh, well, there must be something here. Because you've got that ignorance of, what is the right thing to do, if you like. Well, if the leading organisation in the industry is doing it, then we better get and follow. So that's one of the problems, I think. Anyhow, that's just my first question. My take on it is...
Yeah, and you see, guys, what I'm doing. Graham is asking me questions, but I'm kind of turning this all around, and so he's answering them.
Well, I think it's fashion, it's competition, it's lack of information, and we all go down this funnel, and then we find later... Mm-hmm. And those banks that I mentioned, by the way, they spent millions of dollars years ago on IT adventures, and they just had to write off 600 million.
Right.
One of them wrote off 600 million. So, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last.
Actually, that's a good point about return on investment. Like all companies that I meet, they complain about, oh, what's return on investment on this whole AI thing? We don't have good use cases. So there is definitely an understanding that there has been a lot of expenditure on this, and everyone wants to see the return, but they're not seeing it from like very rare cases that see actually some return on investment. So yeah, I think that there is it's an interesting problem from the business perspective. Why do you want it that much?
It's very hard to get a return on investment when it's so novel. I mean, I can do a return on investment in terms of putting up a building,
right?
Because I've done it before. I know the beginning, I know the end, so I can see, with those costs, what will they do in terms of productivity or something, or in terms of customers coming to our premises. But if you in an unknown and there's no use cases, as you say, well, you've just got to hope, trust and pray.
Trust and hoping.
Where do you see AI generally changing business models? This is for you, of course, customer value or competitive advantage, rather than simply improving efficiency?
Right. Okay, so I'm going to do quite a general answer and then try to go into specifics. I think personally, I see a difference when these projects come from bottom up, and when people are saying, oh, we really need automation here, and then eventually it can scale. So I think that AI gives us kind of great, definitely in terms of operational efficiency, there are clear gains, because previously we had, months and months and months to prototype or minimum viable product. Now we can do it in hours, not days, right? Yeah. Which is great. But I think the scalability is where the actual business model change comes from. And so when I saw the successful projects, it's normally when it's kind of going from the behaviors that are already in organizations that need changing and need automation. So, for example, my team used to do a lot of reporting. So normally the companies want reports all the time. But so in my team, what we had, like we had lots of these reports that we needed to do because we had lots of customers that wanted us to report regularly. So you have a project, it's like a 3-month project, but they want a, let's say, bi-weekly report. And the problem with bi-weekly report is like your team is not doing any work, they're writing reports, right? So, and obviously what the first thing to automate in that situation is reporting. So what we used to have is just basically one system where we just write an Excel sheet, and Excel sheet would, would be fed into a generative AI tool that would pre-write the draft of the report. And then instead of having one person full-time writing reports, we would have one person on a Friday doing half a day of reading those reports and correcting them and sending them off. So I think this is where actually, you can actually change the process. So you can remove the uninteresting process for your team and actually get something really, really good. Yeah.
The example you're giving there is drafting a report.
Right.
Now, we know that ChatGPT or Claude or whatever make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, that's why you need the
So now
human.
you've still got to go through and correct it.
Yeah, but it was not writing a report based on, whatever we were asking from the web, right? We had an internal system where there was an Excel sheet. Everyone goes and fills out the KPI for Thursday evening.
Yeah.
And then on Friday morning, it generates a report. The report gets sent. So there's an agent that sends it to a secretary or, admin person, and they go through the wording, but there is there is no new information from the web or anything that you need to cross-check. Like everything is actually in the Excel sheet. So all it does, it just puts it in a verbal format and makes it fluent and all of that. So it's actually quite a minor editing job. But you're absolutely right. Like if you're writing something, like I'm just thinking about academic work, right? Like many people say that, now, academics are using AI. Like there's lots of these papers in biology and biotechnology that I think, it was proven that lots of AI was used there. But I find when I write an academic paper, I cannot use AI at all because it's not doing what I need. You need to cross-check all the references. You sometimes can use it to kind of make your wording a little bit better if you're struggling with sentences, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the substance, it doesn't, as we know, it doesn't produce anything new. It just, regresses to the average. Yeah.
I think we're talking about AI here in a generic way, but it's not about large language models only. And I think this is the problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about a large language model here, but analytical AI is not on unstructured data, it's on structured data.
Absolutely.
It's on quantitative, it's in metrics in columns, figures of sales or whatever.
Right.
I think the problem I see is at the moment, AI is now in the public's eye synonymous with large language models, and large language models are fallible. Therefore, the public thinks that AI makes mistakes all the time. But can you explain, there's two types and where one's fallible and one isn't?
Right. So we have, let me just put it that way. We have smart models and we have stupid models. So the smart models, so we had machine learning.
Is that smart models for smart people and stupid models for stupid people?
It's different. It's different. It's different in terms of how the models are structured, right? So by smart models, I mean, usually you have a feedback loop in the model. Yeah. So you can have a model that learns while you're using it, right?
So we're talking about a quantitative here? We're talking about analytical AI?
Yeah, so for example, we can have a machine learning model, has no generative input. It uses, regression model as a part of it. And it's not really, it uses a neural network or something like that. So basically, let's just say I take data from customers and trying to analyze it. So I'm analyzing it regularly to find out what they care about, what features of my product they care about, right? Something like that. So all this model does, it kind of compares two instances of the product that I have in my store, right? And looks at characteristics and say, people prefer this cheese to that cheese, you know. But it doesn't really let me see kind of inside, so the black box problem, because, you know, it works in, we call them latent or unobservable sort of way. So basically what it does, it looks at attractiveness of, I don't know, cheddar versus camembert, right? And it looks at lots of combinations of features of these cheeses to figure out what people... So, and then we observe the choice, and then it says, okay, I found a basket of characteristics. You can't see inside them, the basket, but you know that this basket of characteristics predicts the choice with, I don't know, 98% probability. Right. So, but the good thing about these models is when we communicate with them, right, when we put in more data, they update and they update and they update. Now then we have the generative models. The generative model is a stupid model. Okay, it's stupid in the sense that it doesn't really understand what it tells you, so it doesn't understand the context, and it also doesn't. It doesn't create anything new. What it does is just basically creates different combinations of things.
From what it's been loaded with.
Yeah, exactly. So the original model, ChatGPT-3, that went to the market in 2022, that large language model that the majority of people started to use, it trained on 175 billion different variables, right? But essentially what it does is it's like a smart parrot that learned on lots and lots and lots of data. And we don't, I know many people think that when they talk to ChatGPT, they're getting some new information or it kind of learns something. It doesn't. It just creates a new instance of the conversation. And what it does, it gives you kind of the average answer, what an average business person would say. But as you know, this is not how you would do strategy or want to run your business, because as a business, you want to be extraordinary. You want to be different. You want to differentiate yourself from the competition. You don't want to be an average bookstore in Sydney, right? You want to be a special bookstore that people care about. So that's the kind of the distinction. And you're absolutely right. Most of the time, people think about LLMs in terms of when
it's a problem for the industry. I think. I think it is a problem because eventually AI is just going to be regarded as you said yourself, stupid, but it's a shame. By the way, I think you mentioned there about looking at average or looking at the past. If you think of business strategy, yes, you are trying to come up with something different. But what I think a large language model does helps you to look at other industries.
Right, and I think outside the box, right? Something that you maybe haven't thought
After all, it's a combination of words. So if you're looking at a combination that you haven't thought about, you think, well, actually, that's quite insightful. How come the six of us sitting around the table didn't put that combination of words together to come up with that idea?
Right.
So I think there is applications in that case, an application in that case.
Yeah, but coming back to your question, so to make it actually change your business model, it needs to be, I think, scalable, or at least it needs to change like one function. Like, for example, like we automated our reporting, right? I mean, not completely. I mean, there's still human in the loop, which I hate. I just hate this phrase, human in the loop. By the way, like, I don't understand, like, why would you have human out of the loop? Like, someone explained this to me. But anyway, it's a little bit like artificial intelligence. It's also not really normal phrasing, right? Nothing, like, it's definitely not artificial and it's definitely not intelligence. It's just essentially a model that is applied in certain context.
Yeah, you mentioned the word there before, feedback. And I think that is intelligence, feedback. So if I try to reach that table and I can't reach the table, then I realise from that feedback, I need to move my hand a bit further.
Right.
That's intelligence.
Right.
A robot would simply do that without a feedback loop.
Right, exactly.
So I think that's the key to intelligence, which makes me wonder whether large language models are even artificial intelligence.
Yes.
That could be heresy.
Yes, exactly. So like the whole term artificial intelligence is problematic. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I think, maybe we should be talking about LLMs and not AI as LLMs. I don't know.
You're right. I mean, I should when I talk about AI, I should not just assume. But I think I'm just so used to businesses assuming that we are talking about generative models.
We're talking about generative models, but also analytical AI as well under that heading. Is that right?
Right, that's right. But you also, I just want to say very quickly that we need to understand that when machines don't learn the same way we do, right? So if I show a child a dog, and then it's enough for the child to see the dog once, that they can see a cloud and say, "Oh, the cloud looks like a dog," because we have this associative learning, right? So we think in associations. Machines, they think in patterns. You need to show a machine many pictures of the dog, to actually make machine learn the features. That's not how we learn, and so that's like fundamentally different, and even when you have the feedback loop, it's still learning the pattern. It's never gonna say, "Oh, that pizza looks like Jesus," right? Like some people. So So those are the issues, I think, when people think about intelligent machines, they somehow imagine Terminators and and Skynet. But actually, what it is, it's reading the patterns and ability to read those patterns better. But it's never going to be associated.
It's quite interesting how, as you say, a child works that out and a computer can't.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't understand the theory, but then yeah. Now, what should leaders understand about AI capabilities before deciding whether AI belongs in the business strategy?
Right, I think it's probably more a question for you, but for my money, I'd say that they need to be, they need to be aware that they can hire the best, like they can hire me as a consultant, right? And I will come in and do an AI model for them. But I will leave eventually, and someone would have to own that project. Yeah. And so, do they have the people, the skills, right, to actually run that? We had a very funny. I will give you a very funny example. It's actually also with generative. It's a generative model. I mean, it was not really generative model. It was a sentiment analysis model. It was back in the day when we did sentiment analysis. And so,
aren't we doing it anymore?
We not really, because there is the consensus, I hope, now that the machines don't understand emotions very well.
Right, okay.
So at least it's very complicated. Although, people are studying mental health with.
But don't we break sentiment analysis down into certain keywords and then say people are angry or people are?
Yeah. So with text, yes. Yeah. I mean, if you just have text, I think it's pretty. This is what I used to do. Like if you had, some of my famous work is predicting movie revenue from scripts, right? So when you have 90 minutes of text and you're trying to predict what emotional arc, this movie is going to have, that's actually very,
It was recognized at Cannes, wasn't it?
No, in the Stockholm Film Festival.
Which one?
Stockholm Film Festival.
Stockholm, okay.
Yeah, they had someone called me and said, "Oh, can you come in for... we want to discuss your paper." And I said, "Well, do you normally discuss papers at film festivals? Like, this is really weird." And so I thought it was a joke, but no, it was serious. And the point there was that, we had 90-minute worth of text. Yeah. And you could basically map the emotional arc, like from happy to sad and back to happy. Yeah. And what we found is that U-shaped function, so the one that kind of start with happy messages, go to sad and go back to happy, that one gave you a lot more profit than any other emotional arc.
A lot more what?
A lot more profit.
Oh, yeah.
From the movie, yeah. So, but that was
like a happy ending. We want to go home, want to walk out of that cinema with a smile.
Yeah.
And that's where the American movies have got this formula, whereas the European movies, Swedish movies perhaps, Ingmar Bergman or something, you go
That's my
thinking,
favorite director.
oh my God, what's going to happen here?
No, but the point there is that, the U-shaped function is not that you like the film more. Actually, when you look at ratings, like customer ratings, viewer ratings, these are not the films that get the best ratings. These are the films that invoke most disagreement. So people argue about them. So you would love it and I would hate it. And there would be a lot of debates. And because there are a lot of debates, people go to the movies more because Graham said it's great, Ganna says it's horrible. And they would go and I want to see that.
I think when you don't like it, you've gone to the wrong movie, haven't you?
Yeah, but so people argue about them more, right? So so just to explain, like for example, the U-shaped movie would be The Godfather. The Godfather, original movie is a U-shaped function, and but anyway, we used to work in this text, right? So now we have like all these problems with sentiment, and the issue now is that people are trying to do AI without having like any capacity to do it, and they don't know whether they have folks in their in the company that could actually continue the project. So the example that I was going to give you is that we had this sentiment project,
right?
And it was a huge financial organization. I'm sure the majority of the viewers used this financial organization in some time in their life, and know, definitely know about it, but most of you might be even customers. And basically we were looking at complaints for how trying to figure out how to deal with complaints, make people, but perhaps make the company resolve the complaints better.
Right.
And the way, so we created a fantastic system for them using Python and machine learning model. And then it turned out they couldn't run it because they only had Excel. So the people who were supposed to actually run this model daily on complaints, they didn't have access to Python. They only had access to Excel. So what ended up happening is we created like macro for Excel that was just processing Excel files, like whatever is the length of the Excel file, multiple times to get the calculation. So that's an example when you have really mature organization, but no, capability to do it. Yeah. And that's what you need to be thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question here about capabilities, about AI capabilities, one of the things I think is what we've seen is, and I don't know whether I mentioned this before, which was about being able to suggest at the board level better questions for the CEO.
Okay.
So, for example, the other day, you and I were chatting to someone who's a board director. I think I did mention this before, but anyhow, so what she said was, we're finding as directors AI, now we're talking about large language models, being very useful in clarifying key terms.
Right.
So then we come up with a term we're not quite sure about. You can do some research and find out, okay, so that's what that term means.
But that might hallucinate,
right? You could. You've got to check it. You can't go in there and make a mistake.
So I'm actually a bit wary of that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Go into Google then and find an original source. But the other one was questions.
Questions, yeah.
What questions could I ask a CEO about this topic? Now, it doesn't matter if it hallucinates, because you can tell what's a decent question.
Yeah, that's...
You can look at the question and say, oh, yeah, that's a pretty good question, or, oh, that's ridiculous. I haven't really found that. I think the hallucination problem that I've found is when it makes up things that really didn't happen. For example, I once looked for quotes about a certain topic, and it came back with 3 individuals, known individuals,
right,
public profile individuals, with quotes in inverted commas. And then I went to find that source. It didn't exist. So that I could have published something which misquoted 3 CEOs, and they wouldn't have been happy. And we found that also with certain consulting companies, I won't name them, that have presented reports and they had stuff in it, and they've clearly come from ChatGPT or somewhere, and it's
They had to return the money.
baloney. It's baloney. I mean, it's just
Public record had to return money.
retract it and apologise. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so this is the part where we get to play a game. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, look, I have cards for you.
Yeah.
And basically, what I'm going to read to you is something that a CEO or a director would say, or leadership of a company would say. And you have 4 options here. You have business strategy, you have useful tool, you have operational improvement, or you have distraction dressed as strategy. Or you can just say none of this works. Okay, so feel free to do that. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so here's the first one for you. Okay, so the leadership of the company says, we will use generative AI across every department by the end of the year.
Well, it could be that. On the other hand,
Operational improvement.
it could be, but on the other hand, you might say why, and that why is maybe we don't need to if it's not tied to competitive advantage. So it could be operational improvement. It could be distraction.
That's the strategy.
Well, actually, it's not even a strategy. It's just distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, the next one is, we will use AI to serve small business customers faster than larger competitors can.
That's a great idea. And if it could do that, I'd say it's an operational improvement. I mean, that's a good thing. Yeah, let's go with that one.
All right, cool. I like how Graham turned this out. So probably nothing's going to be business strategy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these statements here. I'm thinking, no, number 7's not bad. Okay.
Okay. Next one is, we will train all employees in prompt engineering.
Yeah, give that.
Operational.
Although I'm not sure.
Not strategy?
No.
No? Why isn't that strategy?
Well, it's only helping people do a process. So that's it. But the other thing is, I often wonder about training all employees in prompt engineering. I often say to people, just treat it like you're talking to a research assistant or someone to help you. If your first prompt doesn't work, just try again. If that doesn't work, keep going.
And start over. Start a new conversation if it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's right. Start again. But it's don't talk to the same person if they're not listening.
That's right. Okay, the next one is, we will automate 30% of back office processes.
Well, again, I don't know why you'd want to say 30%. Certainly automate back office processes is one of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go to the next one. We will use AI to identify which customer segments we should stop serving.
Well, that's starting there. That's a beginning of this. See, we're talking about customer service segments, and we stop serving. So that's in that space.
Business strategy.
I'm going to use that. Okay.
All right, brilliant. Okay, we used it once. That's awesome. Okay, the next one is, we will create a board-level AI committee. That is actually something that I hear a lot. We're going to create a board-level AI committee. What's your take on that?
It could be... It could be...
it could be none of that.
It could be... It could be an operational improvement. I mean, I think it could be... Yeah, I think it could be that. Okay. And it's obviously going to be a useful tool. I think this is the problem. If I can comment on that, I think a lot of directors on boards are finding AI is a bit elusive for them. They're not really schooled in it. They haven't come through the ranks in that way. So it's a bit of a mystery. And we know, for example, from talking to directors, that if directors on not-for-profit boards, they're finding that those not-for-profit organisations are not using AI at all because they're not sophisticated enough.
Yeah, that's it. All right. The next one is, we will use AI to reduce response times in customer service.
We'll go for that one.
Okay.
Customer cares about response times. That's a strategic factor for customers. Therefore, it's in that strategy space.
Brilliant. We will build a proprietary customer insight capability that competitors cannot easily copy
Yes, well,
in-house.
it's in-house, but it has a strategic implication because if you've got something that can't be copied, then that should give you a competitive advantage. And we can think of firms that have done that over the years. So, yeah, I'll go with that one.
Brilliant. So the next one is something that I actually met someone yesterday who told me, oh, I want like 100 quick experiments, and like if there are like 99 quick failures, I don't care. So the next one is we will launch 50 AI pilots this year.
Well, it sounds like a useful tool. It could be a distraction.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one, we will use AI to redesign our value proposition for underserved customers.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that can happen sometimes where you're not quite. This says redesign our value proposition, and that's something that I think AI can help with because sometimes you just run out of ideas, and you've been, senior executives have been in the same organisation for many years. They've come up through the same industry, and they're now thinking, what do we do next? And I think, well, I don't know. But they don't say I don't know.
All right, brilliant. That was it. I think that's great. So we talked about a whole lot. I think a lot more than we said we're gonna talk about. But in principle, yeah. So be very careful about saying that you have AI strategy, you have business strategy, right?
Yep.
And you need to be thinking very clearly about your stakeholders, your capability, your strategic factors, and. Is there anything you want to, like, last piece of advice you want to give everybody who is watching?
Well, I think it's important not to get the cart before the horse.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Again, don't forget to do the usual YouTube things, so subscribe and leave us a comment. We really love to read comments.
We're very good at answering comments. So
we will reply, yeah. If you leave a comment, we will
on
reply.
LinkedIn, we're great.
That's awesome.
Even if we say so ourselves.
That's right. All right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.